Hello, everyone. This is James Song here. Great to see you once again. I have another great reading material to cover, reading lesson today for the TOEFL test. So let's get started. The title of the passage, as you can see, is Evolutionary Origin of Plants. So we're going to learn how plants evolved from its very origin, or we may even go before the origin of plant and how it evolved from pre-plant, before the plant. So let's find out, okay? All right, question one is a vocab question. So let's just check where that question comes from paragraph 2. So let's start reading paragraph 1. It is super important to read all paragraphs, especially the first paragraph, no matter what, okay? So here we go. The evolutionary history of plants has been marked by a series of adaptation, okay? So evolution of plant is done by adaptation, adapting to different environments, I guess. The ancestor of plants, okay? So pre-plant, before plant, so great-great-great-great-great-grand-grandfather of the plant were photosynthetic single-celled organism, probably similar to today's algae or algae, however you prefer to pronounce. Algae. Like modern algae, the organism that gave rise to plants presumably lack true roots. Okay, so pre-plant like algae, you know, in the ocean, algae, like seaweed, you know, organism that gave rise to plants, so pre-plant, okay, ancestor of plants, right? Presumably lacked true roots. Yeah, of course. Seaweed doesn't have roots, right? Stems, leaves, and complex reproductive structures such as flowers. So flowers would be one of the plants today that has roots, stems, leaves, and complex reproductive structure, right? So pre-plant, ancestor of plant, like algae, probably didn't have these features, okay? Because ancestor of plants would be something like today's algae, similar to seaweed, okay? So plants come from seaweed. All of these features appear later in the evolutionary history of plant. Of today's different groups of algae, okay, so if we look at different groups of algae that are available right now, green algae are probably the most similar to ancestral plant, okay? So green algae are something that is very similar to ancestor of plants. This supposition stems from the close phylogenetic natural evolutionary relationship between the two groups, okay? DNA comparison have shown that green algae are plants' closest living relatives. So, okay, so DNA have some kind of, you know, DNAs of modern plants to green algae prove that there is some kind of relationship, okay? In addition, other lines of evidence support the hypothesis. So like your theory, opinion, your idea that is not proven yet, okay? The hypothesis that land plant evolved from ancestral green algae. So that's another hypothesis, okay? That says, as I said, right? Land plant originally came from seaweed. Okay, green algae use the same type of chlorophyll and accessory pigments in photosynthesis as do land plants. So going into detail about, you know, supporting information about why green algae seems to be ancestor of the land plant. This would not be true of red or brown algae. Okay, so It's another reason. All right. So red or brown algae or algae, however you want to pronounce, both are correct. It doesn't have this feature. All right. So they are not seen as ancestor of plants. Green algae store food as starch, as do land plant. Okay. And have cell walls made of cellulose similar in comparison of those of land plants. So it's just keep listing the detailed information about, you know, why. Okay, it seemed to be ancestor of plant. Again, the food storage and cell wall molecules of red brown algae are different, so they are out. All right, today green algae live mainly in freshwater. Okay, so not in the ocean, freshwater. Interesting. Suggesting that their early evolutionary history may have occurred in freshwater habitats. Okay, so ancestor of plants were evolved from freshwater to land. Sounds pretty amazing, isn't it? Right? So it's like seaweed walking out of the river, walking out of the fresh water and becoming a plant? Maybe not. Okay. If so, the green algae would have been subjected to, affected by, or exposed to, open to, need to face environmental pressure that result in adaptation. So if so, the green algae would have been subjected, affected by the environmental pressure that resulted in adaptation. They need to adapt, they need to change to survive. How Homo sapien, how humans evolved. You know, we were different from millions of years ago. We evolved to the state that we are in right now. Adaptation, adapt, that enhance their potential to give rise to land-dwelling organism. Okay, so they must have adapted to evolve, ultimately to become land plant. Okay, sounds amazing, but you know, scientifically seem to be true. Okay, or yeah. All right, so subjected to, affected by, so open to environmental pressure, so they need to adapt. Okay, not restricted by, not distant from, not combined with. Combined with means like mixed with or becoming one. All right, so you combine with environmental pressure, you become the environmental pressure? No. Good start, I think. Let's keep going. Question 2, what can be inferred from paragraph 3 about ancient green algae? Let's go. Environmental condition of freshwater habitats, unlike those on ocean, are highly variable. Okay, so I didn't know this. Freshwater habitats vary more than ocean habitat. Okay, so what varies? Water temperature fluctuates seasonally or even daily. Changing levels of rainfall can lead to fluctuation of chemicals in freshwater, or even to periods in which the aquatic habitat dry up also varies. Okay, so water temperature, changing levels of rainfall, these conditions varies a lot in freshwater habitat compared to ocean habitat. Okay. Ancient freshwater, so how do they adapt? Ancient freshwater green algae must have evolved features that enable them to withstand extreme of temperature. Extreme of temperature here means extremely cold, extremely hot, extremely varied, okay, up and down. And periods of dryness comes from the changing levels of rainfall. So I guess less rainfall would have been a real problem. So they evolve some features to adapt to these situations. So what were the features that enable them to withstand? Okay, these adaptation doesn't tell us yet. These adaptations serve their descendants, so land plant in this context, well as they invaded the land. So it's just, emphasizing their descendants here in this context means evolving potentially into land dwelling organism, land plant. Okay, so these adaptations. So probably next paragraph, we will get to learn what were the exact adaptations. So how did they evolve? What kind of features they have, obtained. But let's solve question 2 first, I guess. Yeah. A, they lived in a generally wet environment that was sometimes dry. Yeah, so obviously it's fresh water, so generally wet, but because it's so varied, it says period of dryness. So it's not dry all the time. So this is a problem. Like if there is a lack of rainfall because it varied a lot, then occasionally, sometimes they might have some kind of a dry patch, right? But generally wet, it's fresh water. Okay, so A looks to be pretty good. Good answer. B, they adapted better to changes in water temperature than did other changes in the environment. No, they said they adapted well to things like changes in water temperature and changes in rainfall, potential dryness. It's a list, right? It's not comparison, but B says they adapted better in water temperature than other changes like dryness. Okay, so B is wrong. C, they inhabited areas that were close to the ocean. How do you know? It said fresh water. So does fresh water needs to be near the ocean? Okay, no. They had lived primarily on land. What are you talking about? Okay, so it's pre-land plant. They inhabited fresh water. So answer is A. Good start, I think. Paragraph 4, question 3. Desolate means like empty, deserted, nothing there, barren. That's what desolate means. The terrestrial world is green now. Yeah, so it's green world. The earth, the land is green, right? Plants, grass, but it did not start out that way. Yeah, because we can gather there was nothing on land. It came from the fresh water. Then, yeah, let's find out. When plants first made the transition ashore more than 400 million years ago. Okay, so 400 million years ago, seaweed came out of the fresh water and started to grow as a grass. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I'm just kidding. Okay. The land was barren and desolate. So and here, so some kind of the same direction as barren. So if you knew the meaning of barren, then maybe you could have guessed desolate in the context. Okay. There must be similar meaning as barren. So that's deserted, empty, nothing there. In hospital to life. Okay. So it was impossible to survive as land organism, land plant, when they first made appearance. So how did they survive on day one? Probably they'll tell us. From a plant's evolutionary viewpoint, however, okay, it's barren, like you can't survive, nothing there. But it was also a land of opportunity, really? Okay, so from evolutionary viewpoint, plant is like going, it's a good opportunity. It's an American dream. It's it's an opportunity. Why? Free of competitors and predators. That's true. There's nothing there. So how can you have competitors or predators that will kill you? There's nothing there. It's completely empty. So if you can survive there, maybe it's an opportunity, right? To thrive, to grow there, to live, to survive. If you are able to survive. Full of carbon dioxide and sunlight. Okay, so plants, photosynthesis to survive, make food for themselves. So full of carbon dioxide, which they need, and sunlight. So it was opportunity. The raw materials for photosynthesis, yeah, as we know, which are present in far higher concentration in air than in water. Okay. So in atmosphere, there are a lot more carbon dioxide and sunlight than in the water. Okay, so let's summarize this sentence because we need to solve the question. So let's stick to the previous sentence. So it was barren and desolate, inhospitable to life. So it was hard to survive when it first made appearance, tried to live on land as a plant. But from evolutionary perspective, it was land of opportunity. The land was a great opportunity because no competitor, no predator, and full of material for photosynthesis, right? For them to survive. A lot of sunlight and CO2. Okay, so that's what this sentence is saying. Question 4, let's solve it. Which of the sentences below best express essential information in the highlighted sentence? So which one has the essential information? Incorrect choices change the meaning in important ways. So it's a wrong information or not mentioned, or leave out essential information. So if it doesn't have the main idea that this sentence is trying to say, then it's also wrong. A, terrestrial plant had the advantages of not having rivals. Okay, so no competitors. Or predators, okay? And having easy access to photosynthetic material, CO2 and sunlight. How about it was opportunity? Yeah, advantages, right? Had advantages. Yeah, it was great opportunity because they had advantages of no competitors and predator and had plenty of CO2 and water. Yeah, seems like one sentence is missing. Like we want one more sentence, okay, a bit more information, but it doesn't seem to be wrong, right? It paraphrased. Okay. So we'll keep A and double check BCD. B, the abundance of photosynthetic material made life on land easier. Easier, not mentioned. Okay, it's just saying it was opportunity because there are some advantages of these things. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Once plant had eliminated their competitor, so once plant went up and killed all their competitors, no, okay, and their predators were ready for them, okay. Once they went on to the land from their seaweed status? They killed all the competitors? No. Okay. Their evolutionary process proceeded smoothly. Oh my God. Completely different meaning. The plant evolution eliminated competitors. Same thing. Terrible. Pretty funny, I think, anyway. Plant evolution, yeah, I have a unique sense of humor, maybe. Plant evolution eliminated competitors. This means like this is subject, this is verb. So plant evolution got rid of, removed competitors. Makes no sense, okay? So made the process of photosynthesis more efficient. Totally different meaning, okay? So actually answer is A, right? Which of the following is true about the terrestrial world at the time it was colonized by plants? It was exposed to high level of solar radiation, okay? Irrelevant. It contained a limited supply of carbon dioxide, not mentioned this way. It had developed 400 million years earlier. Just, I don't know, just not mentioned. Can't really comprehend this answer choice to this question, to be honest with you. It lacked the presence of any organism. Yeah, it's true. So actually answer comes from here, right? Terrestrial world is green now, but it did not start out that way, okay? So when the plant first made the transition ashore more than 400 million years ago to land, because when plants, so plants here means land plant, as we know now, plants grow on land. So when plants first made the transition ashore, okay, off the water to land, more than 400 million years ago, the land was barren and desolate, inhospitable to life. So there was nothing there, okay? What purpose does paragraph 5 serve? So what is the purpose of paragraph 5? In the larger discussion of the origin of terrestrial plant. So what is the purpose of paragraph 5 in discussing origin of land plants in a bigger picture? Okay, let's go. When plants pioneered the land, yeah, when there were nothing there. So this is another confirmation. Question 5 is D. They faced a range of challenges posed by terrestrial environment. Okay, good, detail. What challenges? On land, supportive buoyancy. Buoyancy is ability to float in the water. Okay, so like the loon animal, ducks, they have a buoyancy in their body, so they can float, okay, on the water. So on land, the supportive buoyancy of water is missing. There's no buoyancy on land. Okay. The plant is no longer bathed in nutrient solution. So solution here means like liquid. Okay. So plant is on land, not in the water that has a lot of nutrients. Okay. And the air tends to dry things out. Okay, so these are the challenges. Okay, so no buoyancy. Okay, it's not, okay, washed with nutrients, and air dry things. Okay, these conditions, challenging conditions, favor the evolution of structure that support the body. So if something support the body, not like seaweed, okay, algae, if it like support the body, and vessels, like a tube or blood vessels, okay, vessels that transport water. So plant, so human, we have blood vessels, okay. So for the plant, if they had like vessels to transport water, just like how humans blood vessel transport blood, for example, and nutrients to all parts of the plant, and structure that conserve water to overcome the third condition, okay? Air sometimes dry things out, okay? So they needed these three evolution, I guess, okay? So if you had these three things, it would be favorable, okay, in order to overcome these challenging conditions, right? So probably they did adapt this way. The resulting adaptation to dry land includes some structural features that arose early in plant evolution. So it happened. They were succeeded, evolved this way. Now, these features are common to virtually all land plants. Okay. For example, maybe they include, okay, there you go. Great. They include roots. So that's something that supporting the body, right? They have roots. Waxy cuticle that covers the surface of the leaves. So waxy, like a wax you put on your hair. Waxy cuticle that covers surface of the leaves, and stems and limits evaporation of water. So, you know, some functions to not get dry. And pores called stomata in leaves and stems that allow gas exchange but close when water is scarce to save water. And also, I guess, you know, waxy cuticle that covers the surface of the leaves and stems. So stems, it's like, you know, vessels, okay, to move the water through the plant, thus reducing water loss, okay? Other adaptation occur later in the transition to terrestrial life, land life, and now widespread, where are we? But not universal among plants. So it's not every single plant universal, okay? Have it, but other adaptation occur later in the transition to terrestrial life and now widespread. Okay, so yeah, it's common sense. All right, all plants, not every single one, but most of them have roots, have stems, have leaves, and has waxy cover to the leaves. Okay, so they are the adaptation, they are the evolution to overcome the challenging conditions of the land to survive as land plants. Okay. These include conducting vessels, there you go, that transport water. Okay, so most of the plant, right? Widespread in plants, not every single one, but mostly. Okay. And minerals upward from the roots, and that move photosynthetic products from the leaves to the rest of the plant body. And stiffening substance lignin, which supports the plant body. So some kind of structure, okay? Like a stiff structure, not all flexible, right? Helping it expose maximum surface area to sunlight so you can get sunlight, right? All right. Not like lying down or squishy and washy or, okay, whatever. Okay, so you get the point. All right, so questions wording were pretty heavy. So what is the purpose of this paragraph in discussing origin of land plants? Okay, question may be easy. Let's find out. A, to emphasize, to stress, okay, how long it took for, does it say like how many years? Not really. How long it took for ancestral plant to adjust to life on land. The focus is not how many years it took. Okay, paragraph 5, definitely not. We read it together just now. To disprove the argument, I mean, it didn't disprove any argument, so looks pretty wrong to begin with, but let's read the rest to make sure. Disprove the argument that land plant adapted easily to their new terrestrial environment. It's not about how easy they adapted or how hard it was to adapt. It's irrelevant. Okay, it wasn't about, they adapt really easily within 5 years. It's not, right? Or they struggle to adapt. Okay, it's not mentioned there, right? It's irrelevant. It's not about how easily or how hard it was to adapt. It's just saying it eventually adapted, it evolved, and these are the features they began to have, they evolved with. These are the adaptation. These, they changed this way, right? This is the outcome. This is the result. This is the adaptation. This is an evolution. It's not how easy or how hard for the plants to evolve was to adapt, okay? C, to explain how plant colonization changed the physical environment of land. Well, definitely not. Okay, so C, if you chose C, you meant like how plant evolved and adapted, right? And how that changed the land condition. That's what C means. D, better be right. To describe how ancestral plants solved the problem. Okay, so there was some challenging condition, okay? And they solved it, so they indeed evolved and adapted, okay? They didn't fail, okay? There were some challenging conditions, unlike when they were in the water, and how they successfully evolved and adapted, okay? So describe how ancestral plant solved the problems, overcame challenging conditions they faced in colonizing the land. Yeah, exactly, right? There were some challenging conditions that land provided, and they overcame, okay, by certain adaptation. Great. Good question, I think. Very good quality question. All right, moving on to question 7, paragraph 6. These adaptations allow, so these adaptation, having stems and vessels and leaves and wax cuticles and the later adaptation as well. Okay. So these adaptation allowed an increasing diversity of plant forms. So they were able to create different forms, okay? Not just grass, different types of grass, bushes, trees, okay? To exploit dry land, okay? To take advantage of dry land or, use the land. So different types of plant started to prosper, right? Life on land, however, okay, something tough, something negative, something bad, also required new method of transporting sperm to eggs than living in fresh water as algae, right? Okay, sorry. So reproductive, okay? Reproduction. Unlike aquatic water and marine forms, land plant cannot always rely on water current to carry their sex cells and disperse their fertilized eggs. So this is how things are done, right? In the water, right? So water currents carry their sex cells and disperse their sex cells to fertilize eggs, right? So sperms gets fertilized to eggs in the water, and sperms kind of gets fertilized by the currents of the water, okay? But cannot be done on land. Okay, it's in the water. So the most successful groups of land plants are those that evolved, adapted, method of fertilized sex cells, okay, disperse, spread, dispersal, that are independent of water. Of course, there is no water. We are not underwater, okay? Independent of the water and structures that protect developing embryos from drying out. So without being dried out, so it cannot be dried out, even though we are not under the water, but kind of being able to disperse it without help of the waters or without help of the water current, okay? Protected embryos and waterless dispersal of sex cells were achieved. Well done, got it done. With the origin of seed plants. Yeah, seed plants, seeds, dispersal, right? Yeah, and fruit trees started to grow. Fruits and seed in the fruits on the ground, rotted. I don't know, okay? Or spread it, right? Okay, so origin of seed plants that were able to disperse without the water, okay? And the key evolutionary innovation that they introduced, pollen seeds and later flowers and fruits, the way sex cells are dispersed for reproduction, okay? For new plants. Sounds obvious, but you know, it's like amazing and new evolution, adaptation, okay? So yeah, this was like created through evolution, okay? Wow. Okay, cool. Paragraph, question 7. According to paragraph 6, the adaptation made by terrestrial plant had which of the following effect? Okay. Plants developed reproductive strategies usable in both land and water. Both land and water? You're living in land. Why are you strategizing, having a meeting to reproduce in the water? I'm just kidding. Okay, so this is wrong, okay? The plant, because if you chose A is saying plants developed way to reproduce in water as well as on land. Makes no sense, right? They are now land-dwelling organisms. They should develop strategies to reproduce on land, right? The plant diversity achieved in water environment diminished on land. It's just something not mentioned, right? It's a reading test, so you have to find the evidence in the passage, and passage clearly say these adaptations allow an increasing diversity of plant forms. Okay, so plant diversity increased. Okay, so B is wrong. Okay, C. Seed plants became the dominant species among plants. Maybe, but does this say that though? I don't think it says that. I think it just says, you know, protected embryos and waterless dispersal of sex cells were achieved through origin of seed plants. So they may have dominated, but it doesn't go as far as this, okay? It's just saying it made it possible, and origin was origin of seed plants. That's how it started, right? So maybe triangle. D better be the answer. Greater range of plants were able to develop. Yep. So that's opposite to B, kind of. And let's read the question again to answer the question directly. The adaptation made by terrestrial plant had which of the following effects? So it's just the first sentence. Okay, coming from the paragraph 5, these adaptations they made to survive and thrive on land allowed in increasing diversity of the plant forms. This adaptation to live on land allow increasing diversity of the plant form. That's it for question 7, right? Yeah, so stick to the question, just answer the question. Okay, which of the following, question 8, which of the following best describes the author's presentation of the information about land plan? Ooh, this is very rare, more difficult question because it's not, the answer is not targeted to specific paragraph, like paragraph 6 only, okay? It deals with the whole passage as one thing, as a whole, right? So which of the following best describes the author's presentation of the information about land plan? Okay, so let's really think about this. Good question though. So how author present the question about land plan? Okay, A, the author provided an overview of the evolutionary relationship between specific species of algae, green algae, and land plant. This is only one part. This is only like introductory part, right? As we go on to the bodies of the passage, like after paragraph 2, 3, 4, 5, it really develops, it has a lot of information about what challenges land plant faced, and as an evolutional change, how they changed, how they adapted, and successfully evolved to survive, live as a land plant, right? So this is very limited. It's just up to paragraph 1 and 2, okay? Yeah. B, author discusses the transformation, plants went through transformation, adaptation, evolutionary change. So in big picture, I really like this answer so far, okay? Underwent in the process of changing from water creature to land creature, water organism to land organism, from water environment to land environment. Okay, pretty perfect, I think. So author is presenting information as how land plant went through adaptation, evolutionary process to meet the condition in the water to the land, condition of land. Yeah, I like this. That's the whole flow of the passage. The author establishes a pattern of similarity between major land and water plant groups. Definitely not. So it is a pattern. The whole passage is about a pattern of similarity. So this is similar, this is similar. When you compare these two things, these are the same, these are the same. Maybe just paragraph 1 and 2, or in an introductory part, it briefly talks about ancestor of a plant seems to be what we see today as green algae. That's it. That's not the whole flow of the passage. Okay, B is much better. D, the author presents evidence to support the hypothesis that plants first fully evolved in water before finding their way onto the land. So this is very partial as well. Again, I have to repeat myself because D is very much like just trying to prove green algae seems to be ancestor of the land plant. That's it, right? But I'm going to skip up and down a little bit. Sorry if you don't like that. I apologize. So it started like ACD, okay? And then when you get to like paragraph 3, 4, 5, 6, it talks about, freshwater condition was like this, but land condition was like that, and how they evolved and changed and developed to overcome the challenges they had to deal with condition of land as land plant. Okay, maybe I'm repeating myself too much. I think you understood it clearly, but it's just my effort to, help you understand 100% clearly. Okay. Yeah, so answer is B. Clear, right? No problems? All right, 9, 10, and we're done. So we go back to paragraph 3. Okay, let's read the sentence and see logically where it fits, where it should fit. Okay. Scientists believe that, so it's some kind of statement, not detail. Chemical changes and thicker exterior. Okay, so chemical changes is a detail. So, and thicker exterior, so they're outside, got thicker, among other things, and plus some other adaptation changes, may have helped ancient algae overcome the condition in their environment. Okay, so more specifically, the chemical changes. So if the above sentence were like they evolved to overcome the condition, and this is more specific information, like chemical changes and thicker exterior as an example, help them. Okay, so can't be the first square, makes no sense. But let's read this and just double check. First one is wrong. The environmental conditions of freshwater habitats, unlike those of ocean habitats, are highly variable. Yeah, see? First one is not. The answer. The cannot be here, right? We need more information about why or how highly variable it is, or in the freshwater how variable it is, or compared to ocean, freshwater is more variable in this area than ocean. We need some more information about how variable it is, how much more freshwater habitats are more variable to ocean, right? So we cannot put in second square. Okay. Water temperature can fluctuate seasonally or even daily. Changing levels of rainfall can lead to fluctuation in the concentration of chemical in the water, even to periods in which aquatic habitats dries up. So it talks about water temperature and changing levels of rainfall and how can it affect. Okay. All right, so doesn't seem to be 3, because maybe scientists believe that chemical changes and thicker exterior, okay, because changing levels of rainfall can lead to fluctuation of chemicals. So they changed chemicals and thicker exterior. Yeah, so let's check whether this sentence is better suited after previous sentence or not, or whether this sentence supports this sentence, or actually the other way around. This sentence supports this sentence. Okay, if this sentence supports this sentence, then it should be the last square. So let's have a read of this sentence after third. Ancient freshwater green algae must have evolved features that enable them to withstand extreme temperature and period of dryness. And to explain in more detail, what kind of features they evolved? Thicker exterior and chemical changes. Bang! So it should be in the fourth square, right? Because this sentence talks about green algae must have evolved features. And this sentence doesn't tell us what features. And this sentence here tell us what features they evolved, right? What features they have successfully obtained, right? So it should go right in here, right after this sentence. Let's read last sentence. These adaptations, so these adaptation, thicker exterior and chemical changes, among other things. These adaptations serve their descendants well as they invaded land. So these adaptations serve their descendant, which is land plant, well in the future, right? Perfect. So fourth and D right here, supporting this sentence. Supporting features. What are the features? Chemical changes and thicker exterior, among other things. Bang. Fourth. All right. Last question, summary. Introductory sentence for a brief summary of the passage provided below. In moving from water to land, ancestral plants, green algae, overcame, ancestral plants, so it includes like early plant, overcame many obstacles in order to survive. Okay, so early land plant. Okay, so what did they overcome? All right, and what adaptation and evolution they have went through. Let's pick some main ideas to support this thesis. So complete the summary by selecting 3 answer choices that express the most important ideas, so main ideas of the paragraphs. Some sentences do not belong in the summary because they express ideas that are not present in the passage. So some wrong information or information that are not mentioned, that is not mentioned, or just a minor detail. Even if information may be correct, if it's not important ideas or main ideas, it's not the answer. Let's go. A. Neither brown or red algae. I don't like it already because it's very detailed. Okay. When you consider the whole passage and each and every paragraph, brown and red algae not being the ancestor of the land plant, actually ancestor of land plant is green algae, is not main idea. Okay. In that mind, read it anyway. Are likely to be ancestor plant because, so this is wrong, easy. Wrong and minor detail. So thank you, wrong answer, right? They're wrong and minor detail. Okay, so they are not likely to be ancestor of the plant. So I'll move on. B, instability of freshwater habitat. So I like it already because high variance means instability. Okay. Instability of freshwater habitat cause marine algae to develop adaptation to harsh environment. So that was like a previous question we've done, insertion question, right? So paragraph 3. Yeah. Okay, paragraph 3. Okay, C. So B is the answer. The colonization of land by plants was major revolution in the history of Earth. Maybe it is, but does it say in the passage? This part? Are you sure? It doesn't say, right? There's no mentioning of this whatsoever. I'm sorry. Think about it. Does the passage mention this? No. Okay, D. Terrestrial plant, land plant, adjusted to life on land by undergoing structural changes that enable them to support themselves, resist drying, and exchange gases. So this is like really main idea of the whole passage to support the thesis, right? Right. So they faced some challenges because land conditions were different and hard. So what happened? Evolutionary changes has happened, adaptation, to be able to survive under land condition, and they thrived. Okay, so that's before they thrived. So it's paragraph 5, probably, right? It is. It is paragraph 5. Okay. So D, 100% answer. Probably most important idea. Okay. All right. E, to colonize new terrestrial habitat. So in order to live as a land plant, plants needed to create ways of reproducing without water. Yeah. So that's the reproduction, sex cells, dispersal development. So that was paragraph 6. Clear, very simple. F, once plants had overcome the challenges posed by terrestrial life, they prospered by becoming less diverse. This makes no sense. If they prosper, how can they be less diverse? So prosper means thrive, right? So logically, they become more diverse. So logically, it makes no sense. And to double check, what the heck, because it's the last question. We solved this question as well. Paragraph 5. And question, was it paragraph 5? Yeah, okay. Sorry to skip up and down. These adaptations allow an increasing diversity of landforms to exploit dry land, right? Okay, so it thrive and it become more diversified. It mentions once or twice, actually, if you remember. Okay, you can look at the video again or find the right section of the video. But I remember saying this more than once, more than one time in the passage mentioned that it became more diversified, means more variety. Okay, so F is wrong in so many ways. Sorry if I blabbed on unnecessarily a little bit and bored you. I hope not. Okay, so answer is BDE. There you have it. Another reading lesson. Hope it was super useful, beneficial, and really helped you. That's why I'm here. And I'll come back with another lesson. Thank you. Really, I appreciate it. You're watching my video to learn and try to improve your TOEFL score. I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hello, everyone. This is James Song here. Good to see you. Today, we have another reading session for the TOEFL test. So let's get started. The title already gives us the story. The Venetian shipping must have been doing pretty well at some point in time. And the passage is about how and why it declines it. So it goes down. So let's find out. First question is a vocab question, resurgence. Let's read the first paragraph. In the late 13th century, northern Italian cities such as Genoa, Florence, and Venice began an economic resurgence that made them into the most important economic centers of Europe. Okay, so resurgence made them into most important economic centers of Europe. Sounds good. By the 17th century, so in the late 13th century, so late 1200s. By 17th century, however, so decline maybe. Other European powers had taken over from Venice as the Italian city lost much of their economic power. So they lose it all, not all, but they lost their power to other cities, other countries by the 17th centuries. So from 1600s, they lost their economic power as most important economic centers of Europe that they gained from late 1200s. Okay, so resurgence, obviously, probably the word surge, which means go up, get better, rise, right? So resurgence means going up, rise once again. Okay, all right. So that means come back. This question really shows us why it's so important to memorize vocabulary, because if we just purely rely on the context, this could mean anything, because this paragraph is simply saying in the late 13th century, they became one of the most important economic centers of Europe. However, by 17th century, they lost that power status, right? So just resurgence here means if you have no idea what this word means, it could be economic transformation. I mean, if you are purely guessing this question, like economic transformation, so it must have been a very positive transformation that made them into, economic superpower. It's possible, right? Or even, I don't know, program, maybe expansion. But, some questions, you cannot possibly get it right just by trying to understand the context of the sentence or paragraph without knowing the word exactly. It is not possible. You must memorize vocabulary. With that in mind, let's continue. All right, let's look at question first. According to paragraph 2, which of the following contributed to the decline of Venetian shipping? Okay, so something contributed to decline of Venetian shipping. So we just need to find accurate information, I guess. All right, let's go. This decline can be seen clearly in the changes that affected Venetian shipping. So Venetian shipping must have gone down. And trade. First, what happened? Venice, intermediary. Intermediary means someone in the middle, to intermediate buyers and sellers. So it's not a direct business situation, direct buy and selling situation. So there is like ultimate buyer and ultimate seller, and someone who assists in the middle, like an agent, you know. Venus's intermediary functions roles in the Adriatic Sea, where it had dominated the business of shipping for other parties. So parties here is buyers and sellers, and were lost to direct trading. So they lost business. They lost this intermediary shipping business as those buyers and sellers go directly. In the 15th century, there was little problem recruiting sailors to row the galleys. So it's a galley boat. Okay. Okay, it's written in here. And guilds didn't need to know the word of this, meaning of this word. So it's business associations, okay, were required, so mandatorily required to provide rowers. That was the system. So there was no problem recruiting sailors, okay, in 15th century. So everything was going well, I guess. And through a draft system, so, you know, like an NBA draft, right? You pick players. So draft system, free citizens served, again, compulsorily, so required, mandatorily, you have to, when you are called for from the government, I guess, from you know, whoever, from the guilds, right? From the authority, you had to, from the draft system. So it's almost like draft system to military, right? So randomly you are picked, and if you're picked, even if you're a free citizen, you cannot avoid the duty. You have to do it. So there was no problem recruiting sailors in the 15th century. However, in the 16th century, probably some problems. Shortage of rowers. So already happened, okay? There's a shortage. Was not serious, okay, still not serious in 16th century. Sorry, okay, was not very serious. Because the demand for galley was limited by a move to round ship. Okay, so they moved to different type of ships. So probably no more of this, a little bit of more sophisticated technology in nature, right? Okay, all right, cool. Move to round ships with required fewer rowers. Okay, so round ship, whatever it is, need less number of rowers. But the shortage of crew proved to be a greater and greater problem. Okay, but still, going back again, it's kind of becoming a problem. Despite continuous appeal to Venice's tradition of maritime greatness, right? So there's people who are trying to get the crew, staff, rowers, the owners of the boat or owners of the business is trying to appeal, you know, we are economic superpower and we have this tradition of maritime great, you know, you should work in here, but it didn't work very well, okay? Even though sailors' wage doubled, wow. So although sailors' wage doubled, so even though, so active reading, we already know something's not working, all right? So wages doubled, but among the northern Italian cities from 1550 to 1590, so 16th centuries, this did not elicit, attract, equate, resulted, all right, created, bring out, okay, on increased supply. So they pretty much screwed, okay? So real labor shortage, right? They couldn't get the crew to work in the boat, work in the ships, right? Okay, question 2, sorry. According to paragraph 2, which of the following contributed to decline of Venetian shipping? Because they changed to more direct trade. They were intermediaries doing all the business, but no more intermediary needed as they changed to direct trade. So they lost business. It's here. Loss of trade in this part of the sea. Yep. Venice's intermediary function so they had a lot of business as intermediary functions here, but they lost business. Maybe. Looks pretty good. The move from galley to round ship has nothing to do with it. It's about labor shortage. So it's not answering the question. Decreased demand for galleys again. It's about labor shortage. Doubling, yeah, labor shortage. So they lost business. They lost business as intermediaries because, you know, their customers decided direct trading. Question 3. All of the following are mentioned in paragraph as a way of Venice provide rowers for its galley, except. So 3 are correct information, 1 is wrong. And we're looking for wrong information as an answer because question is looking for negative fact. Requiring business association to provide sailors. Yeah, that's true. That's what? Guilds. Okay. So business association were required to provide rowers. That was the system. Sorry, there's so much marking. Too many marking, so it's hard to see, but let me explain. Guilds were required, they had to provide rowers. So that's A. So it's correct information. So it's not the answer for this question. However, recruiting sailors from other cities in northern Italy. It doesn't say that, I don't think. So I kind of like this. It's not really mentioned here. So maybe a right answer, I think. C, drafting system. Drafting free citizens. Drafting Venetian citizens into serve as rowers. Yeah. I went into detail about that. So it's here. Right? Through drafting system, free citizens served compulsorily when called for. That's horrible, right? So if you are drafted, fortunately or unfortunately, you don't have a choice. You have to do it. So that's true. Appealing to tradition as a sea power. Yeah, that's here. Right? Despite continuous appeal to Venice's tradition of maritime greatness, it didn't work. Okay, it became greater problem, even though they appeal to Venice's tradition of maritime greatness. Didn't work, right? So that's true. So answer is B, because we are looking for something wrong. Fantastic. Moving on to question 4. Paragraph 3. Let's read the question first. All of the following are mentioned in paragraph 3 and 4 as contributing factors to the problems of Venetian shipping industry at the end of 16th centuries. So in paragraph 3 and 4, there will be some contributing factors that lead to the problems of Venetian shipping industry at the end of 16th century. Okay, so 3 are correct information. So they are not the answers because we're looking for negative facts, okay? Let us just peep question 5. Yeah, so just one question. We need to read both paragraphs. So let's get on to it. Paragraph 3. The problem in shipping extended to Arsenal, wherever that is, capital letter, so probably a region, Venice's huge and powerful shipyard, okay? So it extended to the shipyard. Why? Timber ran short, not enough timber. And it was necessary to procure it, buy it, get it from further and further away. Okay, how far? In ancient Roman times, long time ago, the Italian peninsula had great forests of fir preferred for worship, so they didn't have to go anywhere. They had great forest in the past. But scarcity, so not enough, running out, low amount, low quantity, not enough in quantity. Scarcity was apparent as early as early 14th century. We don't even need to go to the 16th century. Warning sign from 14th centuries, okay? 200 years ago. Arsenal officers first brought timbers from foothills of the Alps, obviously, not local, somewhere else. Then north towards Trieste, wherever that is, it's far away. And finally from across Adriatic, across the ocean, so foreign countries. Private shipbuilders were required to buy their oak abroad. Yeah, so going on, not enough timber. They had to get it from far away. As the cost of shipbuilding rose, because they have to get the timber from abroad, so the cost of building ship went up. Venice clung to its outdated standard, and they still stick to their old-fashioned way, while Dutch were innovation in the lighter and more easily handled ships. While Dutch were more innovative to create better technology ships. Okay, so double problem, right? Paragraph 4. The step from buying foreign timber to buying foreign ships was regarded as a short one. So not only you had to buy foreign timber to bring it home and build ships at home, you had to buy foreign ships altogether. Okay, not just buying the raw material and build it at home, but just give up and buy the foreign ship. The step to buying foreign ships was a short one, so they started to buy foreign ships, especially when complaints were heard in the later 16th centuries that the standard and tradition of the arsenal were running down. So the standard and tradition of the shipyard were getting worse, getting low. And there were complaints. So what do? They just buy foreign ships. Okay, give up making it from the shipyard. Work was stretched out and done poorly, so this is a reason why their standard was running down. All the workers had been allowed to stop work on half an hour before the regular time. So for example, how work was stretched out, okay? So probably became slower as well. Allowed to stop work for half an hour before the regular time. In 1601, younger worker left with them. Okay, it was just a special system for older people, but younger people say, yeah, I'm leaving with you. Okay, we're the same worker, so I want to, excuse me, something in my throat. So younger workers left with them, so everyone left early. So it was stretched out. Merchants complained that the privileges reserved for Venetian-built and owned ships were first extended, so no more there. The merchants didn't get extra privilege of buying, using Venetian built and owned ships. Well, first extended to who? To those Venetian who bought ships from abroad. So those who bought foreign ships also got the benefits of what used to be only benefits provided to businessmen that buy Venetian built ships, right? Okay, they had a special benefits, I don't know what, okay? But they did have privileges before. But now it's shared, extended to those who just bought foreign ships as well. And then extended to who else? To foreign built and owned vessels. Yeah, so there was no more benefits, extra benefit, privilege of buying and using Venetian Arsenal built ships, okay? Historian Frederick Lane observed that after the loss of ships in a battle in the late 16th centuries, okay, so when and if they lose ships in battles, in a battle, the shipbuilding industry no longer had the capacity to recover, okay? So once they lose ships in battles, they have to recover, I guess. They have to build more ships quickly, okay, to rebound, okay, because there is a war, battles going on, but unfortunately, did not have the capacity to recover, okay, once they lost ships in the battle, that it had displayed at the start of the century. Oh, this is sad, okay? That it had displayed. So it is capacity to recover after the loss of ships. That's it, right? So 100 years ago, even when they lost some ships in battle, they had ability to recover, produce more ships quickly, okay? But they lost that capacity, ability, in late 16th century, okay? So what it's saying is they lost the ability to recover once they lose ships in battle in the 16th century, which they had 100 years ago, okay? So they lost that ability to recover and build more ships really quickly to recover. They lost that. Okay, 2 paragraphs. All of the following mentioned in the paragraph 3 and 4 as contributing to the problems of the shipping industry at the end of 16th century, except the quality of work performed in the arsenal has declined. Yep, definitely right information. So it's not the answer, but it's the right information. The standards and tradition of arsenal were running down. Work was stretched out and done poorly. That's A, right? So it's not the answer. B, Venetian built ships were heavy and generally inefficient. Yeah, it's a paraphrasing because here Dutches were lighter and more easily handled, means efficient and effective. So in other words, Venetian build, on the other hand, were heavier and ineffective or inefficient, okay, cannot handle very well. So it's not the answer because it's correct information. Arsenal shipbuilder work more slowly. Yeah, I think so. Work was stretched out, it says here, doesn't it? Yeah, work was stretched out and done poorly, stretched out. And it gives example about they are working half an hour they're working half an hour less. Pretty much everyone, old and young workers. So stretched out means done slowly. I'm pretty sure. Let's look at D to confirm. Only a few merchants control the buying and selling of most of Venetian built ships not mentioned. Right? So it's a wrong information. So it's the answer because it's negative fact question. Question 5, highlighted sentence. So okay, so we already read paragraph 4, haven't we? And the question is basically here. So we already summarized. Historian Frederick Lane observed that they lost no longer capable of recovering after loss of ships in a battle, which they had century ago. Yeah, they had this ability century ago, but sadly, no longer they have in the late 16th centuries. All right, let's go. A, loss of ships in battle at the end of 16th century show that Venetian shipbuilder lacked the skills they had possessed at the beginning of the century. Looks pretty good, but slightly different, isn't it? The loss of, so it's not that loss of ships in a battle show, it's incapability to recover those ships lost in a battle. That's what this highlighted sentence means. But if you chose A is saying loss of ships in a battle, so that's what happened in a war, what happened in a battle. It has nothing to do with the shipbuilding practice, right? So loss of ships in a battle shows shipbuilder lacked the skills. So it looks pretty good at first instance, but it's totally different meaning, totally wrong. It's saying, you know, those military people who lost ships in a battle show shipbuilders lack the skills, which makes no sense. Okay, they lost ships in battle because militarily they were not as good, not as strong. So it's completely these two are separate things. Okay, what we're trying to understand is shipbuilding had an ability to recover the number of ships lost, but they don't have that skills to recover it anymore. Recover meaning, I guess, building ships quickly. Okay. All right, B. Venetian shipbuilding, yeah, better subject. Failed to quickly replace, so this could be recover, paraphrased. The ships lost in battle, yeah, I like it so far. At the end of the 16th century, so it's perfect so far, right? Paraphrased. Venetian shipbuilding failed to replace, so failed to recover the ships they lost in a battle at the end of 16th century. So if we have, but they had these skills a century ago, then B would be the perfect answer. As it would have, okay? In the past, they would have replaced it. Would have done, replaced, recover earlier in the century. Perfect. A lot of paraphrasing going on, okay? So fail to quickly replace is fail to recover. The ships lost in a battle at the end of 16th century, as it would have done, meaning as they had capacity to do this 100 years ago. So same meaning, bit of a paraphrasing exercise. Very clear. Sounds a little hard, but you know, I'm sure you understood. C. Frederick Lane noted that Venice lost ships in battle at the end of 16th centuries, showing that, so again, same as A, So I don't like this already, because losing ships in a battle shows it's already wrong logic. Okay, showing that Venetian shipping was no longer known for its reliability. Pretty funny, right? So if you choose C, because Venetian shipbuilding did not produce strong enough ships, that they lost ships or it was broken by the opposition, by the different countries' army. Makes no sense, right? And certainly different from the meaning of this sentence. Okay, so how strong you have to build it? You have to build it with metal. You have to build submarine. What do you want? Okay, see, it's wrong. Okay. D, Venetian shipbuilding had been known for its high quality of work at the beginning of the 16th century, maybe. So far, but towards the end of century, Venetian ships were poor in quality, but it does not have main idea or important information that, once they lost some ships in battle, they were not able to replace that or recover that. It doesn't have that information, so D can never be the answer. And B is perfect. Okay, cool. So that was question 5. All right, let's read paragraph 5. The conventional explanation, conventional like traditional, or the way something was done, right? Like formal, or how things are done in the past or now, okay? So not something new, all right? The conventional explanation for the loss of Venetian dominance in trade is establishment of Portuguese direct sea route to the east. So, Portugal's ability to start to create direct sea route to the east would be a factor, the reason for the loss of Venetian dominance in trade, okay? Replacing the overland Silk Road from Black Sea, okay, so they replaced this journey, and the highly profitable Indian Ocean caravan Eastern Mediterranean route to Venice. So they replaced two things. The direct sea route to the east replaced overland Silk Road from the Black Sea and highly profitable Indian Ocean caravan Eastern Mediterranean route to Venice, right? So this would have hurt Venice. Okay, even if you didn't have any historical background, just by comprehending, understanding this sentence, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is conventional explanation. This is traditional explanation, okay? The Portugal Vasco da Gama's, sorry if I didn't pronounce it correctly, voyage around Southern Africa to India. So this is direct sea route to the east, okay? It's giving example to explain it further, okay? Portuguese Vasco da Gama's voyage around the Southern Africa to India took place at the end of the 15th centuries. And by 1502, 16th centuries, the Trans-Arabian caravan route had been cut off by political unrest. So the second caravan Eastern Mediterranean route to Venice, right? Trans-Arabian, Arab, okay, caravan route has been cut off. So these two sentences are supporting this sentence above. Okay, further explanation. Okay, the word conventional, informal, it's opposite. Logical, I mean, it's a different meaning, right? Conventional can be logical, but can be illogical. So meaning is different. I mean, You cannot say all conventional practices are logical. Definitely not. Correct, again, same thing. Okay, could be wrong, or it's not about correct or wrong. It's just meanings are different. Okay, it's not about being correct. It's not about being wrong. Okay, there's typo here. Sorry. I don't know what happened. I apologize. So conventional is things that is the way it is used to be done, right? So the best answer is usual, right? Yep. Okay. Which of the following can be inferred? Question 7. Which of the following can be inferred from paragraph 6 about Venetian Council's decision? So council makes some kind of decision concerning the use of round ships. So they make some decision about use of round ships. What can you infer? So inference question, meaning, I mean, you know, it's not truest sense of inference in TOEFL test. So don't worry too much. Don't overthink, oh, it's inference, I have to infer, because infer means like, you know, you infer, you guess, you try to make an educated guess, you know, so it's not objective in nature. But in TOEFL, it's objective inference because it's a test, and answers have to be logical. So although it says it's inference, you can't just infer. You have to infer based on facts. Okay, so you have to have the objective evidence, the facts as the evidence to have the inference. So if you have 100 people, have to have the same inference in this situation. So, you know, don't worry too much about inference. Okay, you have to infer. It's pretty much factual question, but the answer is not going to be 100% explicit or direct to the facts. Okay, you have to maybe make a natural objective connection to the answer. Okay, cool. Paragraph 6. The Venetian Council finally allowed round ships, so this is a decision, from the round galley to round ships. Okay, they allowed to enter the trade that was previously reserved for galleys. Okay, galley ships. Therefore, reducing transport costs by 1/3. So this may be a good thing. Let's see how this worked out. Prices of spices, so not the transport cost, the price of spices. So as a seller, maybe higher the price, better it is. I don't know. Let's find out. But I want to stress, you shouldn't be confused and continue to talk about transport cost as a like price here. It's totally different things, these two. Okay. So round ships allow to reduce transport cost. Okay. Next sentence. Price of spices delivered by ships from Eastern Mediterranean. Okay, so they get the spices from Eastern Mediterranean to Venice, came to equal those of spices transport by, there's another typo here, I'm sure. It's Portuguese vessels, okay? Portuguese vessels, so it's good, it's kind of competitive, right? You know, it's same price. But what's the problem? The increase in quantity with both routes, so from Eastern Mediterranean to Venice, and the Portuguese vessels, right? So Venice vessels and Portuguese vessels. So two routes, right? The increase in quantity, so more quantity, right? Two different routes, then one route, okay? Two routes, all right? More spices. In operation drove the price down. Okay, if you know anything about economics, supply and demand, then I won't bother explaining it and wasting your time. Anyway, so more quantity drove the price down. So that's not good for Venice, right? Because they want to sell this and they cannot make much money, right? Venice's role as a storage and distribution center for spices and silk, dyes cotton and gold decayed, so gone sour, okay, decreased, worked very badly, okay. And by early 17th century, oof, bad news maybe, Venice had lost its monopoly in market due to Portugal, right? Okay, so not one route, two routes, okay? One from Portugal, right? Or one to Portugal from Middle East, okay? Lost its monopoly. Monopoly means one business in one industry. So you are dominant. You get all the business in the industry. And Venice lost that, okay? To other countries, okay? So bad news. Yeah, let's look at the question. A, so decision to allow round ships. What happened? What can you infer? It drove the transportation cost down. It resulted in a return to profitable in luxury goods. No. Although you allowed round ships and transport cost went down, yeah, it did not work out for Venice, okay? So this did not have positive effects ultimately, okay? Their businesses come down and they lost monopoly power. They lost their power as an economic center to other countries, other cities, okay? So A is not true. Okay, B, ultimately, what happened? It did not restore the superiority in the space trade that Venice had enjoyed earlier. It's kind of true, right? It's inference, so it doesn't say directly here, but from gradually, what does it say? So gradually, it got worse. The business got decayed, means like rotted, literally. So it means it didn't work very well. And ultimately, by 17th century, they lost it. They lost the superpower status. Okay, so B looks pretty good. Okay, it's just a paraphrasing, really. It's not real inference because you can choose B based on this information. It's essentially saying the same thing, right? Gradually, it gone bad, and ultimately, they lost their monopoly to other markets. That's what this sentence is saying. So even they allowed the round ships, it didn't stop them. Okay, it didn't help them rebound and facing this situation. Okay, it did not help them maintain superiority. Did not. Okay, C, it eventually enabled Venetian merchants to increase the quantity and price of the spice. No, price gone down, quantity gone up, transportation costs went down, but the price of spice went down. So C is not true. Wrong inference. D, it means a long-awaited improvement in the fortunes of shipping. Sorry. Okay, did not work out. All right, business decayed. Yeah, and they lost their monopoly status. So answer is B. Okay, so allowing round ship could not stop their decline as a economic center. Okay, so that's B. Question A, according to paragraph 6, okay, we already read it. In the 16th century, the price of spices declined because more quantity due to two roots. Okay, so price of spices here, but the increase in quantity with both roots in operation drove the price down. France and Germany not mentioned. It's just the Portugal. B, Phoenician merchants galley competed with round ships. No, I wish, but no. Okay, and certainly it has nothing to do with price of spices going down. Okay, not answering the question, but also wrong information. Okay. All right, C, more spices, more in quantity, were available because both Phoenician and Portugals were importing them, right? So price went down because two routes and more quantity, more supplies. Bang. D, increased demand for silk, dyes, cotton, and gold meant that people had less money to spend on spices. Not mentioned whatsoever, at all. Not mentioned at all. So answer is C. So 7B, AC. Cool. All right, 9 and 10, and we're done. We should read paragraph 7 just in case, and for summary. Phoenician shipping has started to decline from around 1530, so 16th century, before the entry into the Mediterranean of large volumes of Dutch and British shipping, and was clearly outclassed by end of the century, so end of 16th century. So beginning of 17th centuries, they were outclassed by other countries in shipping. A contemporary of Shakespeare, so people who lived similar era of Shakespeare, so during this time, so they started decline here. And from beginning of 1600, you know, Dutch and British were better. They overtook Venice, okay? So during this time, observe that the productivity of Italian shipping had declined. Yep, no surprise, already mentioned here. Compare with that of British, and no surprise here, already mentioned here, from 1600s, they were outclassed because, what's the reason though? Because of the conservatism, so like traditional practice, not being innovative, not being creative, okay? And loss of expertise, so they lost some expertise, okay? Moreover, Italian sailors were deserting, so they were like leaving the industry. They were running away. Okay, they are not staying in shipping industry. And immigrating, you know, moving to different areas, different countries. And captains, what about captains? No longer recruited from the ranks of nobles. Okay, so captains were not nobles anymore. So before, captains were only recruited from the nobles. Okay, so, comma, comma, take it out. So captains were weak on navigation. So this is maybe a loss of expertise, supported information. Anyway, newer captains were weaker. They had less skills on navigation. And 9, we go back to second paragraph. Okay, so let's look at the information and see where it should fit, where it fits. The increase in reward, okay, huge hint. So the previous sentence must say something specifically about the increase in reward. So probably an easy question, this one. Okay, so one sentence previous, above, before this sentence must tell us about the actual increase in reward from what to what. Okay. Oh, some typos here. Okay. So let me double check. Okay, so sorry. There's a couple of typo. So this is wrong. Ignore this. So we've got first one, second one, third one, and fourth one. Okay. A, B, C, D, right? So A is wrong because it doesn't say anything about increase in reward. Okay. So second box. In the early 16th centuries, the shortage of rowers was not serious because the demand for galley was limited by a move to round ships, which require fewer rowers. Again, second is wrong because it doesn't have anything about increase in reward to support the beginning of this sentence, okay, that we need to put in. So easy. But the shortage of rowers proved to be a greater and greater problem despite continuous appeal to Venice tradition. Again, no increase in reward. Fourth one better be right. Getting a bit nervous. Even though sailors' wages doubled, bang. So this is increase in reward, isn't it? Right? Among the northern Italian cities from 1550 to 1590, this did not elicit an increased supply, and it's going into more detail, okay? The increase in reward still did not attract young people to this hard life, and convicted criminals and slaves were pressed into service. It's perfect because, okay, one sentence previously, even the sailors' wages doubled, it did not work. Okay? So answer is fourth square. All right, last question. Let's finish on a high. Introductory sentence for a brief summary of the passage is provided below. So let's have a read. The summary of the whole passage. The loss of power and prestige of Italian cities, including Venice, by 16th centuries is clearly seen in the decline of Venetian shipping. So why and how Venetian shipping declined? So what are the correct answer choices? Complete the summary by selecting the three answer choices that express the most important ideas in the passage. Main ideas of the paragraphs. Some sentences do not belong in the summary, wrong answers. Are wrong answers because they express ideas that are not presented in the passage, of course, not mentioned, wrong information, or if it's a very minor detail, not the main idea of the paragraphs, they are wrong answers. All right, let's finish this. A, Venetian ships were famous for carrying large cargoes of spices and luxury goods around the world in a fast, oar-driven galleys. Wrong, not mentioned. And even if it was minor, okay? So like, thank you, wrong answer, A. B, shortage of timber for building the traditional galleys and lack of sailors to row them meant a loss of Venetian shipping business. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, certainly it was due to direct sea route, okay? Later, we find that out by Portugal, but B is also main idea of paragraph 2 and 3, I think it was. Yeah, it talks about lack of timber, so you have to get it from further away. That's paragraph 3, sorry. Okay. And lack of workers were in paragraph 2. Okay. So B is definitely the answer in summary. The Venetian Council made sure that Venetian built and owned ships kept special privilege. They didn't, right? You know, privilege were extended to foreign built, foreign owned ships later. So merchants who bought or used Venetian built and owned ships complained, right? So C is wrong. And C is from paragraph 4 or 5? 4 here. Okay, so they didn't get to keep the privileges. So C is wrong. Sorry, I'm like skipping. I hope you're not finding it difficult to follow this lesson, but I want to show all the reasons and clearly where is the evidence that is the answer or not the answer, okay? So paragraph 4 shows it's not the answer, okay? All right, D, Phoenician round ships bringing spices and silk from east help drive prices down, okay? So what? So that ordinary people could afford to buy them. Not mentioned. Okay, yeah, prices were down according to passage due to 2 routes instead of 1, bringing more quantities of spices, but it certainly doesn't say, therefore, ordinary people could buy the spices, not mentioned. Okay, so E and F both better be the answer, otherwise we'll be in trouble. Venice failed to keep up with improvement in ship design. So they were conventional and, you know, they were not innovative. And the cost of shipbuilding rose as quality and efficiency declined. That's compared to the Dutch, right? Yeah, so that was paragraph. Yeah, you remember, right? That's paragraph 5, right? No, it's not. Where was it? How it was outdated and Dutch was making better ships than us. Yeah, here, right? As the cost of shipbuilding rose, the Venice clung to outdated, which is very negative connotation in this case, outdated. So old-fashioned, but old-fashioned in negative sense. While the Dutch were innovative to create lighter and more easily handled ships. Okay, so that's paragraph 3. Yeah, sorry, I'm skipping up and down. Sorry if you're finding it a bit hard to follow this lecture. I apologize. There's no other way I can think of. The Portuguese direct sea route to the east adversely affected Venetian trade, and Venice fell behind Dutch and British in the quality of their ships and sailing skills. So that's the last paragraph, as well as, yeah, I won't go up and down. I will just look at other resource to just tell you Yeah, so paragraph 6 and 7. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Or even from 5. Okay. So it certainly has information about they got the direct route. That's paragraph 5, actually. Right. And it has information about the quality of their ships and sailing skills being poorer than their rival, and they are outclassed by them in the beginning of 17th century, beginning of 1600s, in paragraph 7, right? So you can see 5, 6, 7, or paragraph 6 and 7. Certainly, it's the main ideas we can find in the passage. Okay. So B, E, F. All right, so that's it. This is it for another reading session. And I'll come back with another TOEFL lesson video. Okay, bye for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.